Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's monthly town hall webinar. Going to be going over update 2.21.0 again. And as usual, we will also be opening everything up to a Q&A at the end. We're just going to give it another minute or so here for more people to join in, and then we will kick things off fully. All right, Pat. I think if you want to get things started whenever you're ready, we can go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So as Nick mentioned, we're going to be covering just a rehash. I know there's some people who were on last time, and then there's some new faces in here. So just going to be rehashing because it was a big update in terms of a lot of the things that we included for 221. I also think that when we had the webinar, it was to come out shortly, and now it's out. So hopefully some of you have been able to update and experience the new 221, which does incorporate quite a bit of enhancements that we have. So there's I just wanted to check kind of our licensing. There is a fair portion of people on 221, but looks like there are still some people who need to update. So these kind of first couple slides are going to be for those who have yet to update, and then we'll get into, of course, everything else, like what the update entails, and hopefully answer some questions that anybody has. And we'll also just briefly mention just ecosystem updates or statuses. I actually am thinking of something that happened yesterday that I could have made a slide for, but I'm just thinking of it now, so I'll be sure to mention it as we get there. So from the installation process standpoint for 221, there's a little bit of a difference for this update, specifically surrounding those of you that use 365 and those of you that don't. So there's two paths. There's two possible paths if you haven't run this update that you will encounter. The first option, or path one, is do not pass go, do not collect $200, go right to 221. So that's going to be for you're not using 365 in NeQter, or you are using 365 but you haven't created any saved searches. So one of the biggest things in this update with 365 was a re-indexing of the integration because of I'll get into it a little bit later. We added a bunch, and I mean a bunch of new fields that need to be parsed out, and just by the nature of the tech, when something gets re-indexed, not everything can be carried forward. So we had to build in some logic in order to make sure nothing was left behind. So path two is there's going to be a in-between middleman update of 220.1 where, yes, you are using 365 and you, yes, have created saved searches, which either you are opening up in Discover and utilizing, or perhaps you're using them in custom alerts or reports. So with path two, because path one is easy, just goes right to the latest and greatest. Path two is it's going to have this in between this form's going to come up. So when you press update on 219.3, it will land on, it was going to make that check. Do we have saved searches? Yes. Okay, let's land on 220.1. It's going to prompt you to confirm the update. You know, it has this attention notice, says, hey, these searches that you had are going to be removed as we move to the next update. However, you can download a reference file that is going to preserve all of the JSON and kind of the breakdown, the search name, the query, all of the information about the search is going to be downloaded in that JSON file. So I'm just going to see if I actually if I have that, but for reference. But in terms of that file, it's going to download, and then you type in update in all caps and press update. And whether or not you can, of course, you can click the download reference, but even when you press update, it's going to automatically download that on your behalf. So once we do that, so this is what it looks like here. I grabbed a screen of it, so I don't necessarily need to pull it up. So the JSON file, as I mentioned, it's going to have each search, its title, and then all of the filters associated with that search. It's also going to, just really spell everything out in there: the title, the search parameters, the list of alerts that you created that are using that search, list of all of the reports that are using that search in the report settings. So if it was a search that you really liked and you were using it, quite a bit, that's going to be important for you to reference here. So that's why we included that. So we kind of get that squared away. We get that out of the way. We're on 221.0. So one of the big things that we added was multi-tenant support. So if you're a user, you have commercial 365, and then you also have a separate GCC or GCC high tenant. At the same time, you'll be able to add each, or as many as you have, you can add into NeQter now. Before it was one at a time, but we saw in terms of the landscape, a lot of people are dual tenant, have dual tenants at this point in time and moving forward. So we wanted to add this feature. So in terms of each one, after you add it in, it's going to get listed here. Actually, to go back, you can give it a display name. So you can tag and say, okay, well, this is my government cloud, or this is my commercial. Or if you say you're a larger company, you have different divisions and each division has a tenant, something like that, you can add in, the name of the division or the sub company. So it's going to get listed out in here, the name, the tenant ID, and then it's going to have all the checkboxes for whatever settings that you configured under each in terms of the logs that you're pulling in, whether it's Azure, whether it's DLP, whether it's Exchange or SharePoint. That'll all get listed out in here. And additionally, got that little pencil icon. We can go back and edit afterwards, right? Or before, that wasn't an option. You had to turn it off, redo it, turn it on again. This will allow you to edit any changes moving forward. So that's the first thing with 365. Additionally, as I mentioned, and why we needed to do that middleman update was additional fields being parsed. More than 50 fields were additionally parsed outside of, I think we had 20 or 25. So there's closer to 75 or 80 fields now that are broken down and allows for more precise outcomes within 365, namely around different services and different account actions. Because this was a request that we got from a lot of people. So we broke it down, made it bite-sized, added all those fields in. So now the enhanced querying and saved searchability is like tenfold. It's very impressive. So that's what we added with this update. Additionally, because we have all of the parsing and we can kind of organize and shift and move and have all of these different log types, we added multiple new dashboards. So with 365, there's the kind of the constant all activity. That one's still there, but now we have general, DLP, Azure AD, SharePoint, and Exchange. Basically, the different log source types are the 5 different ones. There's one for each. There's a dashboard for each now. So there's those 5 there. And then additionally, of course, or originally, the all activity. So there's 6 total dashboards now for 365. Just to round out, and this was something that I wanted to cover last time, but or rather, I forgot to cover before we move on to some other features. Was there is an ability to turn on alerts for 365 if there is an issue. So the first alert, and this is if we go into alert templates, it's going to be nestled under NeQter because it's going to be indicating that there might be an issue with NeQter being able to pull logs. So the first one is going to be 365 service error. So this is going to be if it encounters an error, either there being too many requests, a connection timeout, like it's not grabbing logs. If there is an error with the Microsoft service itself, that's where this first configurable alert, those are the types of outcomes that is looking at. So that'll be the first flag. That'll be the first indication saying, hey, there's something wrong with your API. Give it a look. If it continues, reach out to NeQter support. The other alert that you can turn on, create an alert from a template. We go back down to NeQter here, is going to be a service failure. So the service has stopped due to an error. So that's going to be, a high severity because that means the first one is it's erroring and the service is continuing, but it observes some errors, but the service is continuing to run. This one is failure. An error happened and then it turned it off. We're not getting logs. So that's going to be, a problem. So that's going to also merit a outreach to NeQter support so we can troubleshoot, see is on Microsoft side, is there an issue with the API? So those 2 alerts you can turn on for any disruption or stoppage of a 365 API connection. Now, continuing, and of course, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Continuing down, the additional features that have been added to NeQter and to 20.1, we also have a down detection. So this currently is just going to be for syslog inputs. So anything that's feeding syslog into NeQter, we have a universal down detection that you can turn on and configure to know if there is there's no logs coming in, or if it's detected as down, we're not getting logs for that input. So you can turn this on and determine the time frame. You can also add emails to receive, an email that something has gone down. So that's right now, it's for all inputs. So they're all wrapped up into a kind of a singular bucket, and you can determine the time frame and receive an email if we're missing something. Additionally, we updated the status in the syslog area, kind of the red-green status, to be a 24-hour check. Before it was 60 seconds. So of course, say you have a switch and you're only monitoring syslog levels to know if someone logs in. Well, we're not going to be getting logs, so that might incorrectly say, "Oh, we're not receiving logs." But that's not an issue with the input. It's just not writing or receiving. It's not generating logs to receive to NeQter. So wanted to cover that. I know I just see that there's a couple questions in the chat, one of them being around 365. So Mark asked, are 365 logs still 15 minutes behind? The answer is yes, depending on the 365 log type that we're grabbing. So because of how Microsoft does things, different, so like general or DLP or Azure AD or SharePoint or Exchange, they get written to the Microsoft API at different frequencies depending on the log source. So like Azure AD might be instantaneous, and then Exchange checks in every 15 minutes, or another one could be an hour. It's all dependent on how Microsoft does things, unfortunately. So as soon as it hits the API, NeQter can read it and receive it. But it's all a question of when Microsoft is writing those logs. Um, so, um, yeah. Just wanted to cover that. So, talked about down detection, and we'll keep going here. So one last thing with down detection. This is what the email is going to look like. That alert that you get, it's going to have the IP, the name associated with the input type, and will tell you we haven't seen X device in specified time range that you added to the down detection. So outside of 365 and down detection, we also added CMMC SPURS score to level 2 system security plans. Because as per Title 32, it came out in October and was officially enacted in December. They said, we love SPURS. We've been doing it with NIST. Let's continue it with CMMC. So they apply the same DODAM or DOD assessment methodology scoring that the SPURS is based upon to CMMC level 2. So we just took that piece on the NIST side and added it into the CMMC side. So now in any existing plans, so this isn't like a future thing, like, oh, I have to make a new plan and then it will apply. No, it shows up right now in whatever plans you already have, telling you based upon your implementation status and the underlying implementation statuses of the assessment objectives that roll up into the requirements. It will inform you what points you've gained or lost, as per SPURS. So much like that dial is in there visually, and you can click and expand it out. The SPURS report card or SPURS scorecard report will also apply now to CMMC level 2 system security plans. So outside of that, another thing, in terms of enhanced custom reports and alerts, we now have HTML for all custom reports. So before it was just Excel, now we have HTML as an option. So it will still read out as a table, but it will be visualized in HTML. The only thing that you won't be able to do, of course, with HTML is what you can do with the Excel is if you do any like a group by, so say you wanted to group by emails and then have it tabbed at the bottom. Obviously, within HTML, it's not going to be tabbed much like an Excel would be. However, in terms of enhancements to custom reports, and I talked about this last webinar, the importance of curating. If you're making a saved search, adding and selecting specific fields that you want within that saved search and saving that within the saved search will make your custom reports much nicer. Because and we have that as a selected option, save search columns. We have that on by default. So checked on, it will include the columns or whatever fields that you selected in that search. If that's unchecked, it's going to include every single field that's within that index. So say like the Windows index has 50 fields, well, you'll have 50 columns, right, on your Excel spreadsheet. So being able to go in and so this is in the Discover area. When you open up a log to look at it, or kind of in the sidebar, you will see, of course, plus to include results, minus to exclude results, and then this toggle column and table button right here, this little book icon, where, as you can see here in this example, I've only included time, email, event name, application name, as columns. So when I generate a custom report, I only have 4 columns of information to look at. So that's going to be important if you want to kind of declutter your reports or really have more control over because you don't want too much noise. You want to declutter and reduce down. This allows you to do that. Additionally, outside of that piece, there is the searching and filtering of reports now. So under reports, historical reports that have happened, every time you generate an on-demand report or every time a report is scheduled and runs and generates, it will be listed out in here under the reports tab. And now you can search. So you can search by name. So you can type in whatever name you gave to a report, or you can specify report type or report format. So instead of having to comb through a bunch of different reports that you might have generated, you can say, you know what? I just want to see my Spurs report, or I only want to see this custom report that I named myself, and have that pull up. So that's a nice kind of quick win from our side to make that feature a little bit nicer. So that's everything in terms of NeQter that we added in. So quite a bit, quite a considerable amount with 365 down detection and really making reports a little bit nicer, giving some enhancements there, and then of course aligning CMMC with the updated Title 32 that came out last year. So which leads me kind of into ecosystem updates for NIST and CMMC. So much like I've been talking about throughout this call so far, 32 CFR, or Title 32, was published on October 15th, 2024, and was effective December 16th. So this rule is saying green light on CMMC as a program. The CMMC has been recognized as it can be officially used moving forward as a cybersecurity framework to evaluate contractors' effectiveness against securing, CUI and protecting CUI, so that upon contract award, we check to see if someone has a cert, and we can continue the contract. So the 32 establishes the fact that you can go out and get a certification right now for CMMC. It's live. So the Cyber AB has a list of authorized C3PAOs or certified third-party assessment organizations. So there's about, I had to update this. There's about 60 now that are on the marketplace, and they think that by the end of this year, we should see closer to 100 total organizations that are able to perform and run these assessments. Now, CMMC is live as a program per 32. The next step is going to be, of course, writing it into contracts, or rather, having the legal authority to write it into contracts. So that's going to be born of the 48 CFR, the Title 48. So the proposed rule for this was published on August 15th. The comment period already ended for this piece. It's depending on different time frames. We could be looking at Q2, probably Q3 of this year for the 48 to be codified through the official process and go final, which then therefore once it's final, law can be written into contracts. In 32 and in the proposed 48, they kind of outline DoD is going to have a phased approach, because some of the comments that we've gotten, of course, is with the limitation of there's only so many people that can perform assessments. Isn't there going to be a bottleneck, and is there going to be enough? So in terms of the phased rollout with 48, they're going to have basically a 4 or 5 year plan of year one is a subset of contracts, a certain number of contracts, get it written in. And then years 2, years 3, it's going to gradually accelerate the number of total contracts that it can be applied to or picked. They did add discretion, however, that says, a contract officer within discretion could potentially add CMMC to a contract that's not included in the phase, or rather outside of the phase, if they deem it essential or deem it important. So, in terms of a gradual release over time, that's kind of at least the professed DoD plan, with 32 coming out and CMMC's live. Companies are certain companies or early adopters are clamoring to say, I want to get this first. I want to get it now. I know I'm in a good spot. I want to have this paper in hand and use this as maybe a competitive advantage, or maybe my prime, maybe my vendor's giving me, is really giving me, they want me to have this, or they want to secure their supply chain. So they're applying pressure. We've seen it kind of run the spectrum with that. Now, one of the things I thought about at the top of the call to make a slide for was, because I've also seen, of course, 32 came out last year, and that was under Biden, and now we have a new Trump administration, and of course all this stuff happening with Doge and reduction of different government programs and what have you. Well, what about CMMC? Let me hit pause. Well, yesterday, Katie Arrington, if many of you remember Katie, who basically was the figurehead of CMMC under the first Trump administration, she championed it. She moved it forward. She was the one in charge of CMMC. Didn't have a government position in the last administration. Well, lo and behold, she was given a temporary position of DoD CISO. And as per yesterday, she's now the acting DoD Chief Information Officer, the DoD CIO. The DoD CIO office oversees CMMC. So the person that essentially created and championed CMMC is now at the helm of DoD CIO. So it's definitely furthering as a program. The timelines should pretty much stay in place when it comes to 48. So we do, and I mentioned this last time and the time before, if you need help vetting, this is one of the biggest things, vetting a C3PAO. If you're interested in kind of either going for a certification now, or if you want to do a dry run, do a mock assessment, a pretended, basically, live fire exercise, to see, okay, do we have what it takes? Is everything buttoned up? Are we good to go? Finding a C3PAO is going to be crucial. Vetting a C3PAO and making sure that basically you're going to be sitting on the same side of the table, right? You don't want to have any um, differing opinions of your environment versus what makes sense for you, and they have different opinions. You want to make sure that you're all reading from the same sheet of music. The terminology is the same, the analysis is the same. So vetting a C3PAO is going to be one of the most important things that you do, because you want to pass. And of course, a good C3PAO, they're not going to pick frankly, they're not going to pick losers. They want to pick companies that they think, without a doubt, that they can get through the process, and because they don't want any bad marks on their record, right? So vetting a C3PAO, if you just want to talk shop, NeQter is available to do that. If you want an intro to C3PAO, there's several that we have on deck. There's several that we know and trust, so we can introduce you. And again, if you're not prepared to go live and get that official certification assessment, but want to go through the motions, go through a mock assessment, or pre-assessment, we can also, NeQter's here for you if you need anything of that sort. So yeah, that's just about everything. Kind of a, rehash of last time. Again, big update, a lot of things to cover. And then again, of course, want to always cover any new ecosystem updates, anything that's really important to clue into or know about. So we'll leave this open, of course, if anyone has any questions on NeQter, on the update, if there's a something that you think that you struggled with NeQter that everyone else should know, that you solved, and everyone else should know the solution. Of course, if there's anything that you notice funny with your NeQter or might not be working ideally, that we need to push or elevate to our support team. We, of course, have Nick on the call, our customer success manager, who I'm sure all of you talk to regularly. Or if you don't talk to regularly, Nick runs and manages quarterly meetings to ensure that, basically as a little safety net, that your NeQter is running effectively. You don't have any questions. Maybe you have a new team member that needs to get trained up on NeQter. So anything and everything that you might want to discuss, we can kind of handle right now if anyone has any outstanding questions. Nick, was there anything that you think I might have missed between everything I reviewed today?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. Didn't really leave a lot of gaps there. Did a good job clarifying on, what the ecosystem looks like and what to expect with, the assessments. I think maybe we just give it a few minutes to see if anyone has any questions. And if not,
Yeah.
wrap things up.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention is something that we're kind of cooking up. We're going to be going official, probably at the latest, next webinar, next month's webinar is we're launching a customer, don't know whether to call it a referral or maybe customer affiliate program, and this is going to be for direct customers that we work with, where if there's anyone that you think would gain value from utilizing NeQter, or there's like a sister company or a partner company or even just a local company to you that's in the defense industrial base, you think, well, we've had a good time using NeQter. Maybe this company could use NeQter services. We're going to be doing a affiliate program essentially that you get something and they get something in terms of referring that that warm lead or that referral to us. to potentially, hopefully work with them in the future. So it's going to involve, we're buttoning everything up, making it so have an easy form, have an easy way to sign up, have an easy way to track any referrals that people send our way. But essentially, they'll get some money off towards their NeQter license, and vice versa. You will also get some money off your existing license just as a thank you. And that's something that we've been toying around with, but we think that some people could get value. So wanted to see if anyone wanted a thumbs up, or if that interests anyone here, we can reach out and start you off first before we kind of have an official launch with that.
There's a question from Wayne here asking if we post these anywhere so they can be watched later.
Of course. So the website in question is youtube.com, where we have a YouTube channel for everything NeQter. So we can paste that in the chat. But basically, yes, all of these are fully recorded and they get uploaded to our YouTube channel here. So then you can go back and watch it as many times as you like, or subscribe via YouTube. So then when we post it, you'll be notified. And then we do summarize and post the link to our LinkedIn as well. But I'll just go and drop this in the chat now for you. But yeah,
Steps ahead of you, my friend.
Oh, I'm too slow. Need to be faster.
That's what you got me here for, so I can do the things while you talk about them in the back end.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, anyone, again, for that affiliate program, let us know. Or again, too, we do have NeQter merch, NeQter t-shirts and hats or sweatshirts. So if anyone would like anything that hasn't gotten something already, Nick's your best contact for that. Or if you want to drop in the chat here, we'll reach out for that too. So affiliate program, let us know. And then if you want any merch as a valued customer, we'll send that out to you as well.
Yep. Anyone who wants merch, just shoot me an email. Say for the affiliate program, if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to send me an email so I can build a list of you guys out. I'm pretty quick with the merch, so all I need is what you want and a confirmed shipping address, and I will send it away right away.
Awesome. So yeah, I don't see, and I see a couple people dropping off and no further questions. So we can look to wrap this up. But I hope everyone has a fun and safe St. Patrick's Day if that's what you celebrate. I'm personally going to be celebrating St. Joseph's Day as well with some Zeppelis up here in Rhode Island. So looking forward to that. And yep, this was recorded. It's going to be posted on YouTube, and otherwise, we do look forward to seeing you again next month. And any questions, throw our way. We'll do our best to answer them. So thanks everyone for the time today.
Thank you, everybody. See you next month.